we're on the air. You guys are really good. No, I was like, I could feel it. Like something was happening. Something was happening out there. It was, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. So if you saw the sign, just said stop, overthinking. That's like a technique if you didn't know. It's like a technique that actually works with ourselves. If we find our minds going down a path that we don't really enjoy and that we'd rather not participate in, just say stop. Stop it right now. Stop overthinking. This is the third in this series about establishing and becoming aware of the happiness that is available to us in life. And this third attribute of happy people is that they don't overthink things. They don't get lost in that continual circular thinking that the ego can really spin for us. It's called, some people call it, well, the doctor who wrote the book, The How of Happiness, what she calls it is self-absorbed rumination. And I guess it's a condition. Self-absorbed rumination. And of course, just because when it says self-absorbed, we know we're in trouble right away. Right? This really is the essence of all of our problems, is this self-absorption. And the self, of course, that's being talked about here is the self with the small s. The self that we get caught up, we actually say the small self. It's not talking about the larger self that we really want to participate in, and that if we do, we actually have a sense of well-being and happiness. It's talking about that little part of us that screams the loudest. To avoid overthinking, this is. It's easy, especially when we get on a new path, when we decide we are going to start a new discipline. Even being on a path for quite some time, we can get into a habit of examining ourselves too closely. And when I say that, I mean continually looking for what's wrong. Now, there's nothing wrong with a good inventory. And it's been said many times that the unexamined life is not worth living. So we want to. It's interesting that Just for Today was in the NA Just for Today meditation book was about humility. And in this regard, it fits here that humility is just this really simple thing. It's knowing who we are and not having to act like something else. Right? So it's not going around thinking that we're like this lowly, continually going back to we're in error, we're wrong, we are less than, we are, we're always making mistakes, and I always do this, and this is self-centeredness. It's not humility at all. It's just egotism in disguise. Somebody told me many years ago, false modesty is not a spiritual principle. So this self-absorbed rumination is generally us getting caught in a pattern of either thinking about the mistakes that we have made and also projecting that we are doomed to continue to make those same kind of mistakes, or getting caught up in events that occur that really might have been out of our control, even if we did play a part, to get caught up in the event and just keep spinning it and not letting things resolve. We just keep going back to it. It's all about fear, and the lesson today in the Course in Miracles is I give the future to God. And that's paraphrased, but I give the future to God. And so part of this idea of stopping this overthinking is to, anytime we're thinking about projecting on what's going to happen in the future, that would be a good time to take that breath. Say this is the third step. This is turning it over. This is the physical aspect of turning it over. It goes like this. Just take a breath. Relax. Just feel it. Just feel like whatever the issue is, feel it like blowing up like a balloon as you're taking the breath and then expelling out of you as you release that breath. So to give these worries about the future into God's hands, because we actually can't do anything about it, and then being quiet and waiting for direction. This was one of the most important things. Here's what the doctor says about this is that actually these ruminations impair and interfere. They impair thinking and they interfere with the application of solutions because we're caught up in the problem and we're not actually moving forward. It is not productive. She said, stop searching for the defects. Once you've identified that you have them, be willing to let them go. But just stop obsessing about them. So social comparisons, this is another big thing. Another big, huge thing in this overthinking is we compare ourselves to others. We compare our situation to other people's situation in an obsessive way. Because everybody knows what it means to make a comparison. I mean, we're not talking about here going into some weird form of denial. When we see someone who is talented and they have a talent that we don't, well, at least temporarily, we don't share, then there's nothing wrong with noticing that. The problem is to get caught up in it and think that us not having that particular talent says something about our own worth. It's just a fact, okay? It's just a fact. I can't fix the organ. And if I could fix it, I can't play it when it's fixed. It's just a fact. But I could learn to play the organ. I don't know how well, but I could learn to play, right? But right now, I can't. But so why would I feel bad that I can't? Well, there may be a bunch of reasons why I would feel bad. But the point is, it's not productive to feel bad about it. It's not productive to make those comparisons and those judgments. The other thing that is not productive is to obsess about how other people's behavior that we would not, saying to ourselves, I wouldn't act like that, I wouldn't do that. You go on and on with that. So comparing ourselves is always judgmental. Okay, so we notice something, we just accept it, that okay, in the world temporarily, they're better at this than I am, I'm better at this than they are, but I remember that it's really, and this I believe, is only a temporary condition. So when we do this thing, we always come up short, even when we believe our comparison is favorable. Now, people who are happy, and this was what the study showed, happy people who are happier than the norm, they know what it means to compare themselves to others. Everybody knows what it means, but they just don't care. It doesn't mean anything to them. They don't get hung up. They don't care about the comparison. They don't think about it. The happier we are, the more we are comfortable with ourselves, and we operate according to our own values. Not worrying about how we stack up against the values of others. So, here's some ways to get out of this, to break free. To break free of this habit is to stop overthinking, to distract ourselves with something pleasant. So this is what we talked about many times. If I'm having this series of thoughts in my mind that I don't want, now this is kind of important too. We actually have to be in the frame of mind where we actually want to be happy. Sometimes it's attractive to be unhappy. Sometimes for some weird reason, suffering is attractive. And we would like other people to see that we're suffering too, so that we could get a little sympathy. But if we have decided that we want to be happy, and we have that in our mind to say, okay, I'm not going to think this thought anymore. I'm going to think this other thought. And there's nothing wrong with having other thoughts like in our pocket, so to speak, written on a piece of paper. But I mean, and if that's comfortable and helpful for you, then definitely do that. But there's another way to do it, and that is to just stop and ask Spirit, ask that indwelling good, or we could call it the inner teacher or whatever, just ask for another thought. I want to think something different. Ask the Holy Spirit. Ask Jesus, for crying out loud. Ask for an alternative thought instead of that one. And I'll tell you what, if you start doing it, it will happen, and you will see, you will absolutely see that it works. So the second thing is what we could do is to set aside. You could, if you find yourself really caught up in this rumination, and this would be resentments, regrets, anything that keeps spinning through the mind over and over again, set aside some time. The doctor recommended 30 minutes, but there's no way you could stand it for 30 minutes. There's no way. So just set aside 5 minutes, 10 minutes to write down all of these negative thoughts that you're having about yourself, about your situation. Get it down and look at it. What most people do is, she actually says, spend 30 minutes, she says you don't even have to write them down, just keep thinking about them for 30 minutes. But you set it at a certain time every day. You do this at a certain time every day. And she said most people will find that when that time comes, they really aren't feeling bad, and so they won't do it. Okay, so to talk to a confidant. Many of us know the value of a trusted person who we can share with. So we all should have a confidant. This is like really an important principle. To have someone who we can share these fears, these upsets, these whatever it might be, this guilt and shame, to have someone in our lives that we can share these things with. But it's really important. There's something really important about this. It has to be the right person. And the right person means that they're not going to just commiserate with you. The right person is a person who is not going to say, oh, you poor thing. Although sometimes you want to, it's good, okay, they can give you a little sympathy at the beginning, but pretty quick they got to be able to cut through that crap. To be able to get a better perspective, that's why we need the confidant, to get a view that's different than our own self-centered view. And so we get a confidant who we can trust, who's not going to commiserate with us, and also someone who is not just going to want to jump to our defense. Someone who is not just going to want to take up our cause. It's important to have somebody who's balanced, because our tendency is, if our friend comes to us and tells us something that someone else did to them, we have the tendency to actually believe what they said. The problem is what they said is not the truth. When I come and if I'm upset and I come and I share a situation that just happened to me that I'm upset about, you can bet I'm not telling you the truth, because I can't see the truth. I'm upset. So I'm seeing this thing from the perspective of being attacked. I'm seeing this thing from the perspective of being hurt. So even though I may relate the facts, the things kind of as they happen, I'm going to put a spin on this thing, hoping to catch my confidant up in it, and the two of us go down this road of upset. So need a confidant, and these are the kind of things we talk about with each other is, man, when I start going off, you need to draw me up short and just give me a little bit better perspective. This is why when people call me and tell me about they're having an argument with their lover, with their spouse or whatever, and they ask me what I think or what I should do, I say, well, I don't know, because I haven't heard the other side of the story, right? Because the tendency is not to even wait for the other side of the story. And it's interesting, because if it's somebody, if I know the two people, right? Whoever comes to me first, that's the one whose side I will take. As a natural thing, I would, but if the other one would have called me just 5 minutes earlier, I'd be on their side. I have to remember that this is a tendency that we have. We just take up this cause. We just jump in. We make this judgment. We just jump in and we're like, oh, what's wrong with them? I don't know. And it's just not helpful. So So then I do need somebody to talk with about it, but what we're trying to do is get to a solution, not to just be sitting around gossiping about other people or as I said, commiserating. Shared misery. Shared misery. By the way, compassion, we were talking about compassion because it's important that the person would have a quality that we call compassion. The problem with just being compassionate, it actually compassion, it means shared passion, but passion in the definition of suffering. So compassion means shared, that I can emotionally, I can share, I can relate to your suffering, right? But if I just stop there, I'm of no help whatsoever. You just got another person feeling sorry for you. And that's really not helpful. This true compassion that we want to practice is the ability to relate, yes, because we know sometimes we actually have to practice to do that. We have to release all of our self-centered stuff to get to the point where we can actually relate to the other person. But then after that, we can't just stop there. We have to move forward seeing that not just them, but all of us can be free of all of this suffering. And that's like the next thing is, because it goes understanding, compassion, love. That's how the process of it goes. Understanding, compassion, love. If I understand what you say, then I can relate. If I'm actually understanding, right? Then I can relate. I can have compassion. But the next step needs to be the love that sees that none of us are trapped in this suffering. Really important. That's the completion of it. Then it's forgiveness. So, okay. Move to higher ground. Act to solve problems. This is like the biggest thing. Okay, I got a problem. I'm thinking about it. I'm worried about it. I'm carrying on. I was taught this over 30 years ago. First time. The question was this: is there anything you can do about it right now? Is there anything you can do about it right now? And if the answer comes back, yes, there is, then do that. And if the answer comes back, no, there isn't, then let it go. Wait. There'll be an opportunity later to do something about it. To take a small step. Sometimes it's overwhelming. Sometimes the problem can just be so overwhelming and the fear is so great and we think, I'm just not going to get through this. First of all, you just remember, you've thought in the past, I've thought in the past many times that I wasn't going to get through something. And here I am. We get through it. It passes, right? So, but the beginning is to take a small step. Just to take a small step towards the solution, rather than to just sit locked in that fear, that inability to move forward. So, small step. Dodging triggers. A lot of us have done inventory work and we know that certain situations, certain thoughts trigger other thoughts which end up putting us in trouble. So once we know that, rather than just go down that road, we can decide to do something different. I don't know how many times I've been poised, ready to do something, and it occurs to me, if you do this, it's not going to turn out well. And then I just go right on ahead and do it anyway. So, but there's that moment of choice that and it happens to us when we're sometimes in conflict with others, when we're at that point in the argument where we actually could fix it. Like right now, there's this moment where we could stop it right now and we could just say like, oh, I'm sorry. I did not, I didn't. Instead, we go right to their fault and just continue the thing right down the road. So, to avoid triggers, to not put ourselves in situations that we know are going to cause this rumination, the most powerful thing that we can learn how to do, and this was the thing that I sent out, and well, I'm going to end with that. We're going to talk about something else really quick. The questions that we can ask ourselves, as I was saying, things pass, we get over them, we get through these things. One of the questions we can ask ourselves about any of these concerns that we have is, will this matter in a year? Will this be a big deal a month from now, a year from now? That's like, it's so weird. They ask ourselves a question like that, and all of a sudden, this thing that we were so consumed with shrinks down to its proper size, right? So, to get a perspective on the grand scheme of things. So we can think about it. We're living in we seem to be a group of people gathered together in a room, inside a building, on a street, in a neighborhood, in a town, the state of Illinois, United States of America, on the planet Earth, in the solar system, in a galaxy, part of this huge universe. So, okay, so just think about that perspective for a second. If you just want to go with that perspective, just think about how small that problem is in that perspective. And then if you think about the perspective of spirit, which is unending, eternal love and joy, much grander than this vision of the universe that our eyes see, then think about how insignificant the problem is and how, maybe really how easy it will be to let go of it. And so finally, this is the deal, and this is the easiest way, and well, I shouldn't say the easiest way. This is the most effective way to deal with these ruminations. The most effective way to deal with them is the thing that I sent out in the text this morning: thought, no thought. Thought, no thought. Thoughts, your prayers are your thoughts. Thoughts are prayers. Your thoughts are your prayers. So just think about this. It's just a proposition that I'm putting forward. You don't have to believe it. But I'm telling you, the more you consider it, the more you'll see it's true. That every thought that we have is a prayer.